Welcome to the Dream, Plan, Start, Grow podcast hosted by Allison Turner. In each episode, we interview real, everyday entrepreneurs to learn how they got their start, what challenges they faced and overcame when starting the business, and what successes each has had. Welcome to the Dream, Plan, Start, Grow show. My name is Allison Turner. I will be your host. The purpose of this show is really to educate people that are either looking to start a business or maybe have started a business and run into some challenges about different perspectives from different business owners. So I interview different people that have started a business in all different industries, different locations, different walks of life. And each one you will find has different challenges because each time you start a business, it's a very unique thing. You're never going to experience the same challenges as someone else starting maybe the exact same business. Today we have with us Laura McKinney. Hello. She is only 24, but has started a business already right out of college. And if you recall, I've interviewed both of her parents, who are both entrepreneurs, Frank McKinney and Nilsa McKinney. So you can also go back and view those podcasts as well, or listen to them. So how did you decide, because to me, that's unique, starting a business right out of college. I would never have seen myself doing that personally. Yeah. I don't even know if I would have seen myself starting this without the business partner I started it with originally. Yeah. So how did you decide right out of Penn State to start a business?
Yes. So I knew I always had some entrepreneurial blood, obviously with both my parents, but I did not foresee myself starting that endeavor until way later on in my life. I thought I would graduate college, do the 9-to-5 corporate job route. And I was really excited to do that and actually lined up to do it. But by circumstance in the pandemic, I graduated in 2020 when everything kind of hit the fan and I had to take matters into my own hands, where my opportunities, my corporate career kind of fell through the cracks. And I said, well, I guess now or never is the best time to do it. Let's give it a shot. If the world's ending, might as well try, right? And so I created my business. It's called Stratabrand. It's a brand strategy firm. And I started it about a year ago now. It'll be a year old in next month in August. Wow. So it's been a heck of a year, and it was something that I did not expect to start when I did, but it just was a great lesson to myself of, if you want to do something, just maybe give it a shot and it might work out. And for me, it has so far. So yeah.
Oh, that's great. Mm-hmm. How did you decide to create a brand strategy company? Because that's kind of
great
a unique
question.
Thing, especially since you didn't necessarily work in that industry.
I didn't. Yeah. So my background in school, I studied broadcast journalism. I wanted to be a news reporter. And then throughout college, all my internships were really in PR, marketing. Okay. So I kind of got to see the other side of that, and I really enjoyed it. And there's a lot of strategy that goes along with PR marketing, mm-hmm. and the communications umbrella covers a lot of that. And so I kind of wanted my business to be that all-encompassing one-stop shop for brand strategy, where you can do PR, marketing, and basically just bring out the best in your personal brand or your business or whatever it may be. So that was the goal.
Okay, mm-hmm. So that's great. Yeah. Now, how are you getting your clients? Because I know you graduated from Penn State. Yeah. You moved to New York City, where I assume you didn't know a whole lot of people.
No.
Maybe you had some other friends that moved there as well. But other mm-hmm. than that, because they may not be your ideal client.
No, yeah.
So how did you jump right in and, not only start the business, but mm-hmm. get the clients right away?
So I knew moving to New York City was going to be a big risk, a big chance, but I also knew that was the hub for communication, and mm-hmm. I could literally knock on doors, and which is what I have done to get some of my clients, is go down the street and literally knock on doors at venues, businesses, and just be like, this is who I am, this is what I do you need help? And this is what I think, I've looked at your business, I looked at your venue, this is what I like about it and this is what I can do for it. So it took a lot of boots on the ground effort. And I knew if I'm going to do that approach, New York is the best place to be for that, because I mean, you can talk to anybody on the street there and figure out a way where they might know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody. It's just a big spider web over there. Everything's connected somehow, some way, which is the beautiful part about it. But besides the boots on the ground and knocking on doors, it was word of mouth, a lot of my own pushing out on social media, reaching into my Penn State network, reaching into networks from my internships in college, and then also posting my services on the web, online, where people can basically hire me. If somebody types in Google brand marketing strategist, Stratabrand will pop up, and with Google ads, the whole 9 yards. So I've cast a very wide net and luckily I've caught a few fish, amazing fish. Yeah.
Yeah. It's important to catch the fish.
It is. Yeah.
You want to eat.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think the important thing that you said there, when you said, boots on the ground, is that you've been really proactive in getting clients. And I know a lot of people, I mean, I've worked with clients that we built a website. So say they just came, they had kind of a limited budget. Yeah. We built a website, and then and I always ask clients, like, how are people going to get to this site?
Yeah.
Because you can do certain back-end search engine stuff, but obviously search engine optimization is a whole lot more than what's on your website.
Yeah.
And a lot of people most people understand it in this day and age, but I still run into a few small business owners that really don't understand that. And then they get frustrated when, they'll call, maybe they're managing their own site, and then they call you like 2 months later and they're like, I only get a little bit of traffic. And I'm like, well, what are you doing to like promote the site? Because you said you didn't want to do SEO services, or you said you didn't want to do, whatever.
Yeah.
So what are you doing to promote it? So, I mean, I think that proactive piece is important.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
having the confidence, so it sounds like you actually had the confidence to actually do that kind of door to door, almost cold calling really is what it is.
You can't be afraid to look dumb. You can't be afraid to fail, or else you will fail. You have to kind of have that edge and just let go of that fear. Mm-hmm.
So how did you learn that? I mean, at such an early age, I mean, I know even for myself, it's taken me, like, if you would have said like 2 years ago, like I told you I was doing this audio podcast, and I would have never have done video 2 years ago. Like you couldn't have paid me enough money to like get in front of this camera. Like I was like, whoa, it's like a gun. But how did you learn at such a young age to be that confident in yourself and your abilities?
Yeah. I think the root of it, of course, is a big part is my upbringing, having entrepreneurial parents, watching them. If we were going to eat as a family, they had to go out there and make it happen. And that was the whole mindset of is just make it happen. You wake up, you want something, you figure it out. And that was the mentality that I had all throughout college as well. Neither my parents went to college or graduated college. And so that was a new frontier for me and my family to go through that. But I just know, and since I started the business and since it's all on my shoulders, if I'm not knocking on doors, no one is going to. It's not like I'm a part of a huge corporation that has those network abilities. It's just me. So that gets me out of bed in the morning knowing there's a little bit of fire under my butt to get going and make money. And not only that, but do the work I love.
Right. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important. I know your dad, when he was on the podcast, told me the story about when you were, I guess, starting at 3, having you go down the moving sidewalks the opposite direction. And, and he said, like, it's a metaphor for life. And I would never even thought that.
That's a perfect example. And I mean, in any airport we go to, he said, go down the moving sidewalk that's the opposite way and walk against the flow of everybody. And that was, at the time, I'm like, why is he making me do this? And I was little, but I thought it was maybe like a fun game, but I also felt very awkward doing it because I'm like, it's against the crowd. It's against the flow. But that's what I was taught from a young age of being like, that's the right thing to do. That's what you need to do to really do something extraordinary or a little bit different with your life. And it worked so far.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And what have been your biggest challenges in starting the business?
I think my age, honestly, getting that credibility when you're pitching yourself to clients. They say, okay, you're 23. When I started it, I had just turned 23. So like, what do you have under your belt? Like, what on earth? Like, why would I trust you with my business and my namesake? And so the age is a challenge where I do have to kind of prove myself a little bit more by doing a little bit of more legwork before I pitch to somebody, being like, I already did research on you or your business. This is what I've already created a prototype of what we can do with the business. And so give them a little sneak peek of what my capabilities are. And I think that has probably been the biggest challenge. And I'd say to any young entrepreneur, you probably will go through those hoops, and it's a little bit of a challenge, but if you put in a little extra work, it does pay off.
Okay. So how hard was it to get that first client?
Yeah, it took a few weeks for me to get my first client, which honestly I was very happy with that it only took a few weeks. But I did have to pitch to this client a little extra edge, like I said, and it wasn't difficult once I kind of got the hook in and they were on my same page and saw the vision.
No, that's great, and that's impressive because I think too often even business owners that are more, that have been through jobs and have quote unquote experience, when they start a company, that starting a company is completely different than working a 9-to-5 job, because at least I shouldn't say at least in a 9-to-5 job, but you have your job description and you have the goals or whatever it is for your specific position, and that's what you fit in.
Right. Yeah.
And you get that. At the end of the year, the review and everything, and there's your deal, versus when you're out there on your own, there's not the review. So you don't, your review is really the client. So you have to get the client to get the review. But it's so hard. And I find even working with some business owners through the coaching side is, it's so hard for them to really get past like the fears and the doubting themselves, when they don't get that client, when it does, even if it takes a few weeks and, as I said, maybe they're more seasoned at whatever the service is, they still get frustrated. So has there ever been a time when you were either frustrated or fearful of like, maybe I should have done something different? Or
all the time, still to this day, at moments I have glimpses of that. And rejection is going to be a natural part of this. You might really want to work with somebody who's an entrepreneur and they're just going to say, no, like, I don't want to work with you. And that hurts, when you really think you have what it takes to make something happen for somebody. It's hard, but rejection is a part of that equation. And the sooner that you can accept that as an entrepreneur and realize that, it's not personal, it's business, that helps. Oh,
that's great.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something a few minutes ago about, being in New York City and how, everyone knows someone else. And so, you can, it's like that, I think you called it like
Spider
a web. So that web of connections.
Yes.
And I know your mother spoke about, her ability to build like business relationships and, with her contractors and with her clients and how that's really helped her propel her business all these years, being in business for such a long time.
Yes.
So how is that helping like build your business? So, being in New York, because I think you can do it anywhere. Obviously, New York, it would be easier to get it started because there's so many people in such a small area.
Yes.
And everyone knows people and, it's such an active city.
Absolutely.
So, but how has that like helped you build the business maybe more quickly?
Yeah, the roots definitely started in New York, but New York has this, not only national presence, but international presence. People know what it is, it helps on a business aspect. But for example, I had somebody in New York refer me to a musician in Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
And so then I flew to Los Angeles for work and got to meet people there. And while I was there, I went to a few venues in Los Angeles and talked to some of the owners, dropped off my card. The venues hired me for something that connected me to another artist. And so like, it's just, that's the web that New York can kind of spread across the country if need be. And then back in New York, I'm working with like an architect in New York that connects me to not only the architecture world in New York, but real estate too, and working with brokers there, which is different, so it's all somehow connected, and it doesn't always necessarily in the 13 miles long that is Manhattan. It can spread beyond that.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite part of being an entrepreneur so far?
I think being an entrepreneur has this really unique ability to allow you to connect with people on a more intimate level. I think and I've worked in a corporate environment as well and have enjoyed it and got to know my coworkers, and it was incredible for that experience. But I think what is different for the entrepreneurial lens is how when you're working with a client one-on-one, you really get to know the root of them. And that's a big part and almost mantra of my business is getting to know, the deepest part of somebody's heart and mind to make sure that their business is able to, translate that to the public. So that I think has been really special for me and the best part about being an entrepreneur.
Okay. Now that's great. And what's been the worst part?
The worst part is probably that rejection I was talking about. I think from very young in my life, from preschool all the way through college, things went pretty smoothly for me, I would say. I would do decent in school. I never was a straight A student. I was like, B's and C's, honestly. School didn't come easy to me, but I always tried my best, but I always landed in the certain extracurricular activities that were great for me, or sports I excelled in. And at Penn State, I served as student body president. So really mastered wherever I was at in its own right. And then when you get that curveball of life, especially in 2020, like the whole world did, it's not just me, it was tough to swallow and to learn that and realize that things aren't just gonna line up just because you work hard or the way sometimes it just doesn't line up. And so the hardest part has definitely been just having that rejection and having to navigate a lot of, sidestepping things, and nothing is like a straight path, it's very windy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you make a good point. And I always tell people that want to go into business, I'm like, just realize it's not, you see those arrows going up, and it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Like it goes up, goes down, sideways, and you have to you have to adapt to whatever the situation.
Yes. It's like that Frank Sinatra song, riding high in April, shot down in May. It's exactly how I would describe it.
Now, have you done any personal development? Because I know, one of the things I talk about a lot with, people that want to be an entrepreneur is, making sure that they have that personal development side.
Yeah.
Maybe they've, they're 30, 40, whatever they are, but they've been in whatever that job is and they've kind of forgotten about that side. Have you personally done any? Is there anything that's helped you along that journey?
Yeah, I think it's especially when you run your own business, that becomes your life, your baby. And if you don't take time to check in on yourself, you will forget about yourself. And I'm very much guilty of that over the past couple of years. And I'm only 24 and I've caught myself burnt out, sick. And I'm like, it's too soon for this, So to have those check-ins and starting younger has been great. And I have always been a really introspective person. I love to write in college. I studied journalism, and that is my outlet for everything. And so that is my biggest probably vessel of personal growth is writing, and just really looking at the state of my life now, where I've been and where I want to go, and just really working on presence. And I know that sounds super repetitive. Everybody says, be present. But the more you can really practice that, it is life-changing.
Yeah, no, I think that's so true because, so often, usually when you're not present to the situation is either when you're, lamenting something that happened in the past that you have zero ability to change at this point, or you're worrying about something that actually hasn't happened in the future. So when you're not present, that's the two side effects, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And so many people, whether they're entrepreneur or not entrepreneur, especially in this day and age, they're not in that present moment. They're thinking about, what the next thing is, what the next thing,
right.
Lack
of presence breeds anxiety. It really does. Yeah.
And then we wonder why there's so much anxiety in this country. The anxiety levels are going through the roof, and people are all on anxiety drugs.
Yep.
And I think that's key in owning a business. I mean, I always have to even remind myself of, okay, if there's something that's worrying me or whatever, I'm like, okay, where are we right now?
Yes.
That hasn't happened. Nothing's happening. You have the opportunity to kind of move forward to impact whatever that is and make it better, as opposed to thinking it's going to come out this way when it could come out like this, which is your ideal.
The key is catching those thoughts, replacing it with the reality of what's happening, and then releasing it. That's like a mantra I always say: catch, replace, release, so that I can keep moving and not get caught up on things that are maybe not even going to happen or not reality, and just it grounds you a little bit more.
And do you practice like visualization with that?
It's more just like breathing, I would say, for me. Just like slowing my breathing and saying, okay, catch that thought, replace it with something positive or the reality of what's going on, and then release it and keep moving. Okay. Yeah.
And do you have other friends that are entrepreneurs too, that are your age, or most of them working?
It's a lonely world at my age. At my age, it's tough. A lot of my friends in New York, I mean, they're incredibly smart business people, but I mean, working at huge corporations, financial firms, in the medical field. I mean, they're brilliant and I love them to death. But when we go out to dinner at the end of the week and everyone's talking about our weeks, my week sounds quite different from theirs, I would say. And it's nice to have friends that understand it, but it is also very, can be isolating at times, because you can't reach out to just anybody and be like, hey, like, what do you know about this? Or do you know the strategy for this? It's like you kind of you're in uncharted waters. Mm-hmm.
Do you have mentors that you've used? I mean, are you, for this?
Yes. My very first internship in college, I was a freshman. And usually you don't really get an internship when you're a freshman in college, but I knew I really, really wanted to get the ball rolling and try it. And so I found this woman, her name's Monica Samtani. I would still to this day consider her a mentor of mine. She had her own business based in Washington, D.C., and I was her assistant for a summer and basically just got to shadow her, and I learned so much from her. And I was 17 or 18 at the time, and to this day, she's been someone that I look to as a guiding force, whether I'm talking to her or not, even if I'm just watching her from afar. I would consider her a mentor, someone that inspired me, like what it looks like for a woman to own her business and to be very self-sufficient. And she never took no for an answer. So I would say her.
Okay. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's so important to have some kind of mentor, and obviously you were mentored by your parents to some degree.
Of course, yeah.
Even though we don't often want to see our parents as mentors, but
they are though. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. But having someone else that you actually worked for, that became and has become that mentor figure. Absolutely. I think that's important. Especially because I think there's less female business owners too.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So that's a different area as well. That many businesses are owned by men. Yeah. So there's less female business owners and less minority business owners, and so it's also trying to find the way through that maze. Yeah. As well.
It's definitely different, and when you're able to find those mentors or people that are kind of on the same path as you, maybe a little bit older than me. I know a few female entrepreneurs maybe in their 30s that I look to or ask to for advice. And it's nice to kind of have somebody who gets what you're going through, because there might be one extra hump or like hoop or hump that you have to go over to get what you need sometimes as a woman, just as the reality of it. But it's, it's doable.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, do you find... you moved to New York City. Do you find, your experience? I know you went to Penn State. You were the class student body, which I know that's a huge school. Mm-hmm. I mean, I went to Northwestern, so also Big Ten, go Big Ten.
Yeah.
But obviously Northwestern being a private school and 5,000 student body versus whatever, 35 or 40,000.
Yeah, 46,000.
Yeah, 46,000.
Yeah.
is a little bit different, but do you find your time at Penn State helped in starting the business, being, and specifically, even the time as class president helped?
I think my time at Penn State was extremely pivotal for me. I didn't go in thinking I was going to be student body president at all. That wasn't my goal. But when my senior year rolled around and I just, again, decided to go for it, and the mantra, make it happen, since I was like, why not? Like, you're only going to be in college once, and you love the school, you love the institution, you want to make it better. And I was involved in student government already, so I went for it. And I think being in a leadership position that young and being like a spokesperson on behalf of an institution that large really showed me that, like, it's possible to be a leader in that sense, and that people, if you're able to have a good message and you're genuine at the end of the day, because people can tell if you're not, and in a business it's really important to have that authenticity, because I know for me, I'm not going to hire somebody who is not authentic in their work. Right. And so I allowed that to translate from my time at Penn State over into my business. And that leadership aspect definitely has helped me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think you brought up something key, and the authenticity piece, and always being authentic, because people can pick up when you're not authentic.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And even if they can't pick it up initially, they'll figure it out down the road. And that can hurt as well.
Yep.
So you always want to, because you want to ideally go after your ideal client and your ideal avatar. You don't want to take clients just because, if you need the money or whatever it is as a business owner. You want to go after the people that, you want to work with, because that's where your passion's going to come out and your authentic nature is going to come out to begin with.
Yep. That's the key. It's the key. Mm-hmm.
No, I think that's key. Is there ever a time, because I know, the population in their 20s are often, they're working whether it's 9 to 5 or whatever the job is, and they're going out and socializing after work, and, they get to leave the job at work.
Yeah.
And as a business owner, typically you don't leave the job at work, because, you're the one running the company, you're the one bringing the money in. Mm-hmm. So is there ever any challenges there, where you're seeing other people your same age that are like, oh yeah, let's go out, and they'll go out till like 11 or midnight or whatever, and you're like, okay, well, I got a early morning meeting, first thing, so I got to head home.
Yep, I've definitely come across that, especially in a city like New York, because it doesn't sleep. But I think for me, if I'm out with friends, or sometimes they might get a call or a text from their boss, like, oh, I have to respond to this real quick. And for me, it's like, I might get an email or a call from a client, and they're like, oh, but Laura, you can just, you're the boss. You can, right? You can just get to that. You can get to that in a couple days.
Get to that later.
Yeah. And I was like, no. Like, I'm the boss, so I have to hold myself accountable. Accountability is a huge thing when you have your own business. And it might be easier in the sense like, oh, if you had a boss, you have somebody that you're calling to. But for me, it's like, if no one answers this call right now or this email, then guess who's the one in trouble? It's just me, and it's on me, and I have to live with that. And that's something I don't want to live with. So it definitely, there's been times like that. And discipline, I'm more of an early riser, so because I can get more work done, and I have West Coast clients, so I like to get stuff done before they are awake and ready to go for them. So I definitely am mindful of time. I think it is the most valuable asset on planet Earth that you can give yourself and that you can give people. It is worth everything. Just time that you spend with people like this, what we're doing right now, I'm so grateful that you're spending time with me. It's like, it's so valuable. And
Yeah, you made two great points, accountability being one, and ultimately, if you're the business owner, you're accountable to yourself at the end of the day, because there is no one above you.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important piece. And I think the time piece, which I actually haven't heard even in the other podcasts I've done, is a great point.
Oh, yeah.
Because we all have the same amount of time, ultimately. Like, that's where the playing field is level. Everyone's got the 24 hours a day, the 365 days a year. Everyone's got that, and it's how you use that to the best of your ability to make whatever you're looking to make happen.
Yes.
Happen.
Yes.
And it's interesting because a lot of people waste a lot of time, or what I perceive as waste, and that's my own perception. So no judgment, but but a lot of people, sometimes you see people wasting time on things that, maybe you're like, oh, what if they use that time this way? And I've seen it in my own life where I've in years past, oh, if I'd just done this, but I'm like, but it, the only thing I can do is learn from that experience and adjust it to where I am now.
Exactly.
So I can move forward. So, I mean, you seem very wise for your age.
Well, thank you.
And, it's interesting because I know a couple people that are probably around your age that have started businesses, but not a lot. And I think it's a huge challenge. Anytime you start a business to me is a challenge.
Gosh, yeah.
Anytime. But I think especially at that younger age, it's a huge challenge. So, definitely kudos to you for, embracing the endeavor. And obviously seeming to do well with what you want. What's the ultimate goal for you and this company?
That's a great question. My ultimate goal, the basis of it, like I said, is just to bring out the best in people and showcase it to the world. I'm somebody from the time I was very little who have been very fascinated by moments, like small moments people are having, and being able to show other people, like, look how beautiful it is. Like, I could walk through a park and just be enamored and brought to tears just because there's two people reading a book over there and two people are laughing in that corner and one person singing and playing the guitar over there. And that is what the human experience is. And that's something throughout my life that I want to make sure I can keep bringing to the forefront, bringing out in people, and then also being able to show it to the world. So with the future of Stratabrand, I would love to continue using the communications umbrella of marketing and PR to do that, but eventually really be able to curate those moments and spaces for people. And I would love to work more with big venues. Like, my dream would be to work with Madison Square Garden in New York City, which is a mecca and a hub of community and the human experience. It brings people together in one place so that they can experience something together. And to me, that is the most beautiful thing on earth. And that is what I hope I can do with Stratabrand, is continue to be that vessel and grow that.
Wow. That's a huge vision.
Yeah, it's big. Yeah.
But I think it's important, to have a vision.
Yeah.
Because too often we get caught up as business owners in that day-to-day, working on the business, working with your clients, you're working on stuff, and you don't work, or working in the business, you don't work on the business, I should say. So, working in the business, and then you don't work on the business of, okay, if that's my ultimate goal, maybe that's a 5-year goal, maybe it's more than that. But if that's my ultimate goal, and we set that big next step, how am I going to get there? Because you always have to work on the business to continue towards that, even while you're servicing your clients.
Exactly. It's just chipping away at that vision a little bit every day. And I make sure I make time every week. I have, my brainstorm session for my business, my current business and my clients. And then I have a separate hour that I call the dream storm. Nice. I write down everything that is the big vision and the goal, and in the most highest version of myself, my business, what do I envision it to be? So I have my hour dream storm, and then my brainstorm is the present, the reality, what I'm working on. And separating the two, and then being able to look at both lists and be like, okay, this is how I'm chipping away each day to get to this list.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
I really like that, the dream storm.
Yeah.
Now you do that weekly, you said?
Yeah. Once a week.
And you find it similar each week?
Pretty similar. I like to see if anything has changed, if maybe I have a different dream, and I allow myself the space and open-mindedness to do that, because I might have been exposed to something that week that I didn't even know was a possibility for me. Okay. So I like to, that's those check-ins I'm talking about that keeps me a little bit more present. But yeah.
And is that the dream storm just about your business? Does that also include personal?
Yeah, I have one for my business and then one for my personal life too.
Okay. Because what I've found is, a lot of people talk about balance and work-life balance and things like that. Yeah. And I've heard all sides of it. I've heard people say, forget work-life balance. Things are always going to ebb and flow a little bit more, where one time you're focus a little bit more on work, and then the other time you're focused more on personal, and things like that, and just kind of let it go. And then some people are like, no, you got to keep this rigid balance. And, I think each person's going to have their own feel of that. But I've also found that, as a business owner, your personal and business are going to kind of meld in, because there's no way to really fully separate unless you are completely, you build enough people in the business where you don't have to be involved each and every day. Yeah. Maybe you're still overseeing kind of the big picture, but you're not involved. But if you're involved in the business, like there's no way the two can't really separate completely. Yep.
Yeah. They're very much intertwined at times. So it's important to have both those dream storms.
Yeah. But I think that's an important, what you say there is important to talk to other business owners about, because, too often you envision one piece, but you don't envision the other. So while your business is growing, like the personal life over here is kind of going down the toilet, or vice versa. Yeah. You have a great family life or whatever it is that you're envisioning, and then like the business goes down because
it's so true.
The two have to be, both have to be present.
Yep. It's so true.
Mm-hmm. So, you said Madison Square Garden, and that's a pretty big...
It's big.
big dream. I've never actually been in Madison Square Garden. I would love to go to Madison Square Garden. I've been in the U.S. Open space, and been there. I've been to the Mets, New York Yankees, but never been to Madison Square Garden. But I don't go to New York typically like during basketball season.
Yeah.
And but why Madison Square Garden? Like, what piques your interest there? Just because it's such a multi-purpose. I know it's not just basketball.
Yeah, but, it's very dynamic. It's a lot of performances, concerts. It has sporting events, hockey, basketball, but it's in one of the biggest cities in the world. Yeah. And it is, you can say Madison Square Garden and almost any performer would know what that is. And to them, that is their end goal. They're like, wow, if you make it to Madison Square Garden in New York City, you make it, right? And it's the same for me on the flip side. If you make it to Madison Square Garden, you're able to facilitate that experience for the guests to come together and watch a performance or a sports game where they can just let their hair down and just practice the art of play, which is what that is. And I'm a big advocate of play. And I think it's not just for kids. And those venues like Madison Square Garden or in New York City Central Park, it's a place where people can just be and not have to be on, just be. And that is what I would love to do, is facilitate that playtime for people of all ages.
Oh, that's fabulous. Now, are most of your clients, are they all over the age range as far as like ages? And
I have the youngest I have right now is 26, and then the oldest I have right now is 70. Oh, so wow. It does quite range. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. So they're all older than you.
All older than me. Yeah.
So you really got to be on top of your game. I do. Know your stuff.
Got some life on me for sure, and I respect that.
Yeah. But they obviously respect something in you too.
Yeah.
They've hired you.
Lucky
to do it. And you said you work in LA some, in New York. Are there other places you work as well?
I have a client in Cleveland, one in Houston, one in New Mexico. So they're kind of sprinkled all over, but the majority I would say are on the coasts. So that's New York and Los Angeles.
Okay. Okay. And did you create that intentionally to be able to like work in different areas?
No, I really just thought it was going to be just New York. And then until I tapped into that web and realized that I can really go across the country to start. I mean, not across the world yet. Haven't gone across the pond. Yeah, but I'm open to it. Totally open to it. But I got to master the home turf first. Yeah.
And you got to like to travel if you want to have clients all around. So
and I do like to travel. And at my age, it's a really fun thing to do. And be able to pick up. I don't have a family of my own yet, so I have that flexibility.
Right. And do you see any, you just mentioned family of your own yet. Do you see any, what are your perspective on that as far as, I know both your parents obviously mentored owning a business and being in a family life. Yeah. And I know I remember your mom talking about, they had that commitment to having dinner with you.
Yes.
So like once they got home, like work shut off.
Yep.
Which is always is hard to do.
Yeah, it is.
It's hard to do, but
yeah.
What are your perspective on that going, down the road, maybe 1 year, 5 years, who knows?
Totally. I, did get a really good example of that growing up, where my parents were extremely successful and busy, but when it came to their time with me at the end of the day, they didn't talk about work. And for me, I would love my future home and the space for my family to be like a warm, inviting, safe place where, of course, life is not going to be perfect and there's going to be ups and downs in the home. But at the end of the day, a place where my family and my friends can come and, again, just be. I want my house to be that play space, that free space, creative space, where nobody really has to go in and flip a switch on and be professional in that atmosphere. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think that's important because we all play roles in different parts of our
true.
life.
Yeah.
And I mean, some people play roles throughout their entire life. So they get the role of the husband or the wife, and they have the role of the parent. They have the role of, and it's like they flip you just mentioned the switch, it's like they flip the switch. You're like, okay, work role done, close that one, and they,
totally.
Family life on, and it's,
Exactly.
it's like they flip to the role. It's almost like that robotic.
Yes. And I'm extremely guilty of it myself. I think a lot of people are. And so I'm just trying to be more aware of that and be like, there's no need to do that. I'm finding I'm more happy or more present when I'm not flipping the switch on and off, and I'm just existing.
Yeah, because I find that here because I know so many people around the area. Yeah. So like if we go out to dinner in the downtown Delray area, I don't want to be on for the business necessarily because I'm out with Jack and just enjoying and being like you were saying. Yeah. But then you run into somebody,
right?
And you're like, do I have to flip the switch on now? And I'm always like, don't want to see that person.
I know. I think a lot of people have the same experience.
I don't. It's not that I don't want to see people, but it's you want to spend that quality time because I find both he and I work a ton,
right?
And so when we do have that time where it's just us. It's trying to appreciate that and enjoy that, and I think that's where the challenge. I mean, sometimes we go outside of Delray because I know, because in Delray you always run into someone
It's true. It's
here.
Yeah, it's a big small town.
Yeah, exactly. Not as big as New York, but by any means. But
it's growing for sure.
Yeah, no, it's definitely growing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as we start to wind down a little bit, if you were going to say one thing that you've learned through this experience that would benefit someone wanting to start a company, so any kind of company, like one thing either that you didn't know when you first started, or maybe one thing that you brought into it that you found is probably like the most valuable thing you had, like going into starting a company.
Yeah. I think it goes back to resilience and being open-minded because it's not going to go as planned. And I can promise you that. I am the world's biggest planner. I built a whole business about being a strategic planner. I was like, I can do things from one end to the next. And I thought, it's a piece of cake. It's going to be a piece of cake. And it just simply is not, So go into it knowing that just because it isn't a piece of cake doesn't mean it's not possible, but like it's very possible to do. So I would say just go in knowing that there's going to be a lot of bumps along the way, but when you learn to love the bumps, that is when it gets fun, and embrace it instead of always trying to push it away and having this constant internal arm wrestle with yourself of like, you need to push back on this. You need to do this. It's not right. It's not right. The minute you put your hands up and you surrender that this is part of the process and accept it and just enjoy the ride, like strap on that roller coaster and have fun, baby. Like it's really, it's going to be a fun time, but you have to go with that mindset of making the choice that you are going to have a fun time through those bumps. And even though they might not be that exciting or fun, you'll be able to kind of have that roundabout mindset of being able to get through that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oh, that's great because it's that being able to adjust, especially adjust on the fly.
Yeah,
I think earlier in my business ownership, I wasn't as able to do that
Yeah.
because I'm also a planner. So I
Yeah.
would like plan things out, and I'd be like, you know, something would come up. So I had, you know, whatever planned between this time and this time. So I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. Like this is the time I'm supposed to do this.
Yep.
And I'd be like, oh.
I know. It's releasing the reins a little bit. You think with having a business, you're going to need to tighten the reins. You actually need to loosen them a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if anyone had any questions for you, so maybe there's someone else that's, you know, freshly out of college that's interested in starting a business, or maybe they were interested in, you know, kind of services and how you might be able to help them. Is it best to connect through social media? What's the best way?
Yep. Best way to find me is Stratabrandco.com. That's my website. We do have an Instagram as well, Stratabrand Co. And you can email me at laura@stratabrandco.com.
Okay. Oh, that's great. So thank you very much for joining
oh my gosh,
today.
This is fantastic.
I mean, I didn't know, because I don't know you that well. I mean, I know we've kind of met in passing before, but I didn't know really what to expect. I see pictures on social media, on your dad's social media account, but
all the time.
That's what I see. So, but this was a great, you know, a real treat, and you know, you are wise beyond your years. So if you can start a business at this age and be like Laura,
have fun.
Definitely definitely do it, because I wouldn't have been able to do it coming out of college. I don't even know what the heck I wanted to do, but you know, so kudos to you.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for joining us on the Dream Plan Start Grow show. We love working with the startup companies and those looking to, you know, push through that plateau in the business coaching world. So if you have any questions, feel free to take a look at our website, dreamplanstartgrow.com. You will find all the podcasts there, as well as other videos and resources, a blog. And I'm happy to do a complimentary consultation with anyone. That's also available on that website. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to the Dream Plan Start Grow podcast with Allison Turner. If you like what you heard, make sure to subscribe and leave a review. Join the Dream Plan Start Grow community by following us on Facebook or Instagram @Dream Plan Start Grow. See you in the next episode.